Hi everyone and welcome to Disc Golf Valley Tips and Tricks, and today we're going to continue our series on how to get a jump start in the game. And what we're doing is we're taking a look at all of the courses and then doing 3-star runs on them with some selected discs that we have purchased. And if you are interested in becoming competitive very quickly, we recommend you purchasing a few discs and following along in the series here, and before you know it, you'll be playing with the more advanced players and have learned all the courses. And today we are taking a look at Grizzly Gulch. Nice course, beautiful setting, and let's show you some lines to get to your 3 stars on this course. First hole, what I usually do is just grab my fuse and point it kind of right in between these two trees and then just pull straight back. And that should swing around and land fairly close to the basket. And depending on the direction of the wind, sometimes it just lands right down at the basket and kind of clinks against the stand there. So that's an easy birdie with that line. Not much else I can show you on that, so let's carry on. Next hole. Okay, we've got a nice 3-strength wind here, so we're going to play this a little different than we usually do. Normally you can just get away with the 7 speed there, but I might go for the 10 in this wind and just basically point it your last chevron down at the top of the fence post there, and because of this wind I'm going to put just a little bit of a hyzer on it, and that should swing around and land fairly close to the baskets. It's an 11-meter distance. That strong wind isn't probably going to make too much difference. Let's try it again, see if we can't get a little more normal wind speed. Let's try the 7 and see how it goes. Just point it again right on that last fence post and just pull it straight back, and that should bring it right into the basket. That's kind of the normal line that you can use to pick up your birdie on this hole. 10 meters, you can probably just toss that in. All right, moving on. All right, this is a hole that you might struggle with when you first start playing the game, but it's actually a hole that you can possibly pick up a nice eagle on. And we'll go for our strongest disc here. This is the heaviest. The west side 14 speed would probably work, but it is also a light disc, and any of the light discs might potentially get carried away by the wind, and we've got a strong wind here. So let's go with our Zeus. Let's point it our chevron right up at that fence post there, or maybe even just a little bit over. With this strong wind, it's going to carry that over. But the idea is to then pull back and almost take it to the end there, but with the wind speed and direction that we have here, I'm going to hold off on that, and it should just swing around and bounce up the hill. And if you bounce up far enough, you should be able to get your eagle. Watch the wind here, compensate for that. 19 meters distance. I would point it right near the bottom rim of the basket and a little bit left of center because of the direction of the wind, and that should be in. There we go. Maybe play this again, see what kind of wind speed we get. The opposite direction. Well, let's maybe try it right about there, and more of an anhyzer this time. Didn't get up as high as we might like. Let's see if we can pull it off. Ooh, too much. Just be happy to walk away with your birdie. It's nice to pick up an eagle here at this point, especially when you're on your 3-star run or competing against others. But it's nice to pick up your eagle on this, especially if you're working on your 3-star run, or if you're working against others, you're competing on the multiplayer, and not everybody's going to get that eagle, so you might get a chance to get ahead. So practice that one until you're comfortable getting that eagle there. All right, this one, we can probably just use our 10-speed PD here. Put your pointer right in the center of that rock there. And you probably wouldn't even have to put any hyzer on it. It should just swing around. I put a little anyway, just to be safe. And that's going to leave you in a pretty good position to get your birdie. If you don't have a 10-speed with a roll attribute and you find yourself further down the road than you would like, let's maybe try it with the 11, and we'll probably end up past the basket quite a bit and maybe even in the river. Let's try it. Ooh, we hit the bee's nest there. Okay, so we're in the river. This is what I wanted to mention. If you go out of bounds on this hole, it's much better to do a rethrow than a move to lie, because the move to lie here puts you in a drop zone that is a little difficult to get, especially for new players. And so you're going to end up getting more points off. You might go in the river again and you end up with a double or triple bogey, and it's frustrating. Let's see if I can get this. It's because it's shooting downhill and it's 32 meters. Now, because we're not dealing with a wind, it might be not too difficult, but the idea is you don't pull it down as far as you normally would. And okay, so I was able to get it in, but when you're first starting, that's a difficult shot. I remember being very frustrated going with the drop zone on this hole. So it's much better just to hit the replay on that and come back here and be sure you pick the right disc this time, which is the 10-speed, and hopefully you have one that doesn't roll away on you, or I shouldn't say skip away or slide too far away or slide into the river. It's nice to have the roll attribute here, and just when it lands, it sticks right by the basket. That's what you want. Okay, let's move on. Next hole. All right, Grizzly Gulch. We've got a nice wind at our back. Here's where you might want to try your west side disc, like the game is offering or suggesting here. Because this disc, because it's extra glide and light, it has a good chance of getting up over the mound there and leave you with a nice lie up near the basket. Now, the one thing about this west side is that it does go way off to the right. Shockingly far off to the right. But this wind should bring us right back, so maybe put our pointer here and then just pull straight back and see what happens. Yeah, this is what we're looking for. And that leaves us with a nice toss in for our eagle. Let's play it again and see what we need to do with other winds. Okay, here we've got a wind against us, but let's try the same disc here. And this time we might bring it over just a little bit more. Now, if you happen to have a different light extra glide that doesn't go so far off, then you'd probably want to point it down to the edge of the bridge here. But that is the play here, is if you have a light disc, a light extra glide distance driver, is to try and get up over the mound there. And you don't always make it. Depending on the wind is what really happens here. So if you're down here, then it's a little more challenging to get your eagle. It's not impossible. And so it's good to practice this so that you can kind of become good at knowing how to throw in this situation. You have to lift it up a little bit so that you don't hit the rocks. But then when you do lift it up, point it up, aim it up, then you don't pull back as far. And the problem is, if you don't pull it back as far, then it doesn't make it to the basket. Just like that. But you do end up with a nice birdie when you miss that eagle. All right, maybe we'll play it one more time using a more conventional approach. Let's see what happens if we use our Zeus. Is it possible to get up there with our Zeus? I think in some wind conditions it might be. But it just doesn't have enough lift, I guess. Or it's too heavy or something. And so you end up down here again. You're a little further back, which can help. You know how to play this. And no, it's just... And looks like I'm a little rusty on this, but nice thing about practicing every once in a while in the practice mode is that you can pick up your skill again. It looks like we need to pull it back just a little bit more, but then that's too much. And this is really a good position to land in, because in the practice mode you can keep running this over and over again until you get a good feel as to how much you need to pull back in order to basket this and still get your eagle. And so let's do a few practices on this. It's kind of a tricky one, but it is quite doable. All right. Usually, boy, I don't know what disc to use here. I don't have any of the discs that I usually use for this hole. But let's try the Zeus. It's kind of like the Ballista Pro that I usually use. Flies a little bit differently. But the idea is to put your pointer right in between these two rocks and put a little bit of a hyzer, well, I should say a little bit, about half a hyzer, depending on the wind conditions. And then this, with a little luck, will put you right through the hole, the tunnel here, and get you close to the basket. For an eagle. But this is definitely a hole that you will want to put in the practice mode. Hole number 6, set it to hole number 6 so you can keep repeating, resetting a lot of times, because what you need to do is become good at knowing, let's use the Zeus again, good at knowing how much hyzer to put on it in any given wind condition. So the 1 speed, you might want to not put as much hyzer on it. Ooh, we don't like it when it does that. Let's try this. That looks like what we're looking for. And it's actually possible to ace this in a couple of different ways, actually. If you're lucky, you get a good bounce. This line will often, no, I shouldn't say often, but it will occasionally get you an ace. But there is another approach that sometimes gives you an ace as well. And that is, let's switch it to the backhand. Let's try the Zeus on this. Slide over on our pad there a little bit. Point it Oh, I'd say right about there. Again, I'm not used to the Zeus for this line, but let's put about a half an anhyzer on that and see if we can't get up over the rock there and come down to the basket for, again, a birdie. And it's not going to show. And 2 strokes, that would have been an eagle. We didn't reset, so it's not showing it as an eagle. Let's maybe replay it again, and this time got the wind in a little different direction, so we'll make an adjustment for that. And here's where you can see how occasionally you'll get the ace doing this. But go ahead, practice that, and learn how to get your eagle on that. Next hole. And what I usually do is bring it down to about here and put just a little bit of a hyzer on it. Now in this wind we maybe don't need to, but this should bring us around. The one thing about using a roll disc on this is it can, if it gets into the roll mode, kind of roll right into the river. Let's run it again and see if we can't get some different wind conditions here. Okay, this is, with this one, should be more likely to come in on the other side and land nicely by the basket here. I would say don't take this hole for granted. Spend some time on this one as well, because depending on the discs that you have in your bag, you could run into some trouble on this one. But the 10 PD seems to work pretty good. Maybe do it one more time here. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that 10 speed here. Or that 10 speed PD. Now, notice we're uphill a little bit. We're shooting downhill, so we won't bring it down all the way. Watch the cameraman. And there you go. Another birdie. Next hole. All right, this is a little bit of a challenging hole at first as well. The Zeus should be our friend here. Just bring your pointer right about there in this wind, and I think if you just pull straight back, you'll be fine. Unless you hit the top of a tree there. So that could have had a little bit of an anhyzer on that. Now this hole, to play it safe, you maybe want to get out your 7 and come this way. But if you want to try for your eagle, then you might want to use the 10 and put it over just a little bit. That's the forehand. And see if we can't pull off an eagle here. No. This is one that you will have to determine what discs you have in your bag and practice that for distance. That PD. That whole, the hill is deceiving here. Let's replay it again. It takes a lot more to get up that hill than what you might expect. Let's use our Zeus again. And it might have been better if I put a little anhyzer on that last time, so I didn't potentially hit the top of that tree. Because if you hit that tree just right, it's going to bounce and send you off into the river. And you don't want that. Okay, so yeah, like I say, you're going uphill a lot, and that just seems to take a lot more strength. So 59, you'd think you'd normally be able to get that with the fuse, right? But you might only make it halfway up the hill with that fuse. So 7 or even the 10, you might want to take you up this hill. And usually you can come back for your birdie, no problem. If you get more than a 10 speed, you can slide off the hill up there, and the drop zone on this one is kind of difficult to come back and get your birdie, or get your basket, so you end up with a bogey. So be careful you don't go too far on that. All right, hole number 9. What can we say about hole number 9 on Grizzly Gulch? I think the best advice we could give you is practice, practice, practice. Because it's a tricky hole, and if you don't get it mastered, you're going to have a hard time getting your 3 stars on this. Because what can happen is if you don't get it in that entrance on your drive, and it rolls down the hill into the river, you're going to end up with bogey or double bogey and ruin your chance at getting the 3 stars. And as I look at the bag, we really don't have a good disc in our collection here, or in our bag. We could maybe check our collection next time before we do the 3-star run to see if we've got anything, but I don't think so. We just don't have the right one. The 11 is just not quite enough disc, and the 13 is too much. And if you're just starting on the game, you might say, well, why don't you use the 12 speed? Well, the Zeus, even though it's called a 12 speed, it's more like a 14 speed. As far as distance goes, and it skips. The recoil skips, and so it might be an option. We could try fooling around with that and see what happens. But I think our best bet is actually the rive here, the windbreak rive, and just set this up and not pull it back too much. Maybe just pull it back to the top of the second line and see if that makes it in. Now it's going way off to the... and it rolls down the hill. So it looks like we needed just a little bit more pull on that. And maybe this time we'll pull it down more straight, or just a little bit Anheuser. And it looks like that's going to get inside. But it's a close call, isn't it? It almost hit the top of the rim. So, like I say, practice, practice, practice. We could see what would happen with the recoil here. It's been so long since I've played the recoil on this. I just don't know what it does. Well, that has some potential, actually. We just need to remember to put a little bit of a hyzer on it. And that should come around in. Okay. So, I think the recoil is the disc of choice then. Let's just get comfortable with it one more time before we go for our 3-star. So the strategy might be to put our pointer right more about here, and just put a little hyzer on it. And again, depending on the wind, you might want to make an adjustment to that. But all right, I'm feeling good about that. We are in some side of cask. Let's see if it will work its way out of here. Yeah, it does. Okay, let's play it from the start and see if we can repeat. Oh, we've got a nasty wind. But let's see what we can do. We'll put it right about here, and this time we won't put no hyzer on at all, because that wind should bring it around in theory. And yeah, I'm feeling good about that. All right. Well, I think that is about all I can show you in our practice round. Like I say, there's some holes there where you need to do your homework. As we get down the list here in our courses, they're going to get harder and harder as we go down further on the list. And when you're first learning the game, you're going to have to spend some time on the practice field to master some of these holes. As you do, you'll become a lot more competitive when you start playing the daily and the multiplayer. And that's what our goal is, to become better at the multiplayer. All right. I believe that does it for today's video. And so if you found some helpful tips there, go ahead and give the video a like. That helps us out. And if you haven't already done so, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time here at Disc Golf Valley Tips and Tricks. So long for today.